Okay. All right, folks, we're going to switch gears into the exciting part of this evening, where we'll obviously just introduce you to our EdTech pitches and our companies and what they have to offer. I think in doing so, I want to take the opportunity just to talk about the Injini and AWS. So this is the second year running, as you might well know. It's a very important relationship for us in terms of how we are able to support EdTech organizations within South Africa, but also across the world. So I really appeal to you that if you are in the EdTech business, you're looking to grow, you're looking to start something up, we've got our incubation program that we'd really be keen to want to enroll you in. So please feel free to reach out to myself, Thandi. We've got Henny and where's Dan? Where are two colleagues from Amazon? Henny, you around? No? Eugene? They were here a minute ago, but we've got Eugene and Henny, which is our two colleagues, which also look after the education space, play a big role in that space, so you can reach out to them. I'll point them out to you as the evening goes on. So the partnership with Injini has obviously been quite important to us, and I think in so doing, I'm going to hand over to the founder and CEO of Injini, which is Jamie Martin. Please, if you can join me up in stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Just over 2 years ago now, in the wake of another failure by African countries in an international education comparison, I wrote an article in the Mail and Guardian that said we would try and launch the first education technology dedicated incubator program on the African continent. And since the article was published, we've run over 20 events like tonight across the African continent, attended by over 2,500 people. We launched that incubator program, and our first 2 cohorts have received nearly 1,000 applications from 36 different countries. We've selected 2 cohorts of 8, worked with them on 5-month programs, and invested them to the tune of over $500,000. Now, we started out on this because we believed that education on the African continent was fundamentally broken. But while technology is not a silver bullet that cannot fail, it is a tool that can help. And it can help the most in the hands of local entrepreneurs who are solving their own problems in their own context. And the Injini team committed ourselves to helping them because we believed that it was as important a problem as you could work on in terms of the future challenges of this continent. But as Margaret Thatcher once said, nobody would have remembered the Good Samaritan if he had only good intentions. He had money as well. And Injini would have achieved nothing without our funders. Our initial seed investment from the Cape Innovation and Technology Initiative, bigger funding from the Western Cape government, the UBS Optimus Foundation, and the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. So can you please give all of our funders a big round of applause for making this happen? As well as people entrusting their money and therefore their faith with you, one of the most humbling things about founding an organization is watching other people work with more skill and even more dedication than you can manage to realize your vision. Anything Injini does is because of a lot of people who work hard to plan, run, and clear up after events like this evening. It's because of people who come in and give a talk or run a session or mentor on our program. It's because of our shorter term employees, Mimi, Darren, Sakile, Tim, and Olga. And above all else, it's because of the 2 people who have driven this program forward since its inception, Doreen and Ruth. If you see anything about tonight that you think is impressive, know for absolutely certain that I didn't do that, they did that. So please give them the round of applause they so richly deserve. Because tonight marks not just the demo day for Cohort 2, but the culmination of our initial remit from our funders to launch this incubator program and run the first 2 cohorts. And when I look back over that period, I think that we have got some things right, and I think we've got some things wrong. We've learned a lot, and it's important that we share it. We were founded on the belief that government wasn't the solution to this problem. Government often was the problem. And anyone who looks across the continent today sees low accountability but high corruption, a failure to restrain recalcitrant teaching unions, a total failure to acknowledge, let alone tackle, big problems like the literacy crisis. I think we're as right about that now as we ever were. We also said that if they were just given the chance, the opportunity, the support and the backing, local entrepreneurs would come forward with big ideas for building companies that can improve education in Africa. And I think tonight you are going to see 7 fantastic pitches that will persuade you that we were right about that as well. So no pressure, guys. But I think we were wrong about the scope of things that technology can really be relevant to. And I think we've learned from that, and you will see tonight that we have focused in areas where we believe there is business product market fit and real impact, like out-of-school tools for practice in core academic subjects, platforms for adult learning, employability, linking people to higher education, and school management and teacher support tools. I also think that we were wrong, or I was wrong, when I wrote in that article that we'd be agnostic about methods, but religious about results. Religious about results, yes. And even though we've run impact measurement workshops and demanded impact plans from our cohort companies, I think InGenie and everyone could do more to push edtech companies to measure what they do. But agnostic about methods, I think, is no longer possible when we have an African education debate that in many ways is going in the wrong direction. It's not the time to have it now, and I think Dominic from our cohort companies, I was very proud that he spoke up for evidence earlier today. But a lot of the ideas that are coming forward about abandoning traditional methods to education and moving to this 21st century skill inquiry learning agenda are wrong. They are not what the world's best education systems do. They are not supported by evidence or the best learning science. And I think InGenie, me, everyone here has got to commit to an African education debate that is more evidence-driven in future. I also think there is something that we were right about and wrong about. We said that trying to improve education in Africa isn't something you do because it is easy, but because it is hard. But as we have had to watch our cohort companies struggle to work with government, struggle to partner with corporates, struggle to get into schools and universities, battle for every check from investors, it's been a reminder that the moral arc of this particular universe is especially long. But then we did also say that if something is important enough, even if the odds are stacked against you, you still do it. And education is as important and as fundamentally broken on this continent today as it was 2 years ago. So if you are here representing a corporate, maybe tonight is the time to stop waiting for a government that won't solve this problem and start working with the startup that might do. If you're from government, or you are a teacher, or represent an NGO, maybe tonight's the time to move away from a failed status quo based on political convenience and wishful thinking, and towards new evidence-driven solutions that might actually change things. And if you are an investor, perhaps tonight is the time for all of us to stop talking a big game about the business potential of education in Africa and start actually playing one by putting capital behind the early stage local entrepreneurs who can make a difference. And if we can achieve at least some of that starting this evening, then when someone comes to write another article, whether it's in 2 years or 5 years or 10, they will say that Injini's cohort companies, their partners, their supporters, and their investors bent that moral arc just a little bit more towards progress. Thank you very much. Please welcome to the stage to talk you through how this evening is going to work and introduce the first companies to pitch, Injini's Head of Data Insights, Doreen Nabajo.
The startups you will meet this evening have given me a much deeper appreciation of two things. The first is that there is no shortage of talent across Africa. The second is that it takes an insane amount of hard work to get an edtech startup off the ground in Africa. Building a startup in Nigeria, in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, means that you are painstakingly optimizing for users with lower incomes, users with little to no internet access, and in some cases, users with no access to a centralized electricity supply. The 7 startups you'll meet today are true African innovators, and I hope that you will be truly impressed with them, as I have been every day in the past 5 months that they have been in the Injini program. Let me talk you through how their pitches will work. Each startup will pitch for 4 minutes. How we're going to run this is we will have 4 back-to-back pitches, then a Q&A session, and this will be followed by 3 back-to-back pitching sessions, followed by a Q&A. At the end of the event, the startups will go over there to the demo stalls, which will give you a chance to have some one-on-one interaction with them. So this is the order of the pitches tonight. We'll start off with Langbot, followed by Alimu, ScholarX, and BlueBukh. We will then have a Q&A session. Then Ruth will come forward to guide you through the pitches of Learning Factory, Slatecube, and Lightbulb, and she will then lead you through the second and the final Q&A session. With that, let's start the Injini Cohort 2 Demo Day pitches. Pitching first this evening is Langbot, who have built a powerful chatbot that can be used to teach people languages via Facebook Messenger. This chatbot was so good that it was awarded $20,000 US by Facebook after they won a bot competition. So, what do you think is the impressive user number of this small startup from Ethiopia? 100, 1,000, maybe 10,000 users? If you guessed anything in this range, then you're not even close, because the right answer is more than 230,000 users. In less than a year since this startup launched, almost 250,000 people from across the world have accessed Langbot to try to learn French. This has gotten the attention of 2 of the world's largest language institutions, who will now be working with Langbot in their new B2B model. Of course, Natty, the Langbot CEO, tells their story much better than I do. Please help me welcome Natty to the stage.
Thank you, Dori. I don't know how I can follow up that introduction. So who here has tried to learn a new language? Now keep your hand up if you stuck with it and actually succeeded. It's very hard, right? Well, this creates a huge problem for language schools who lose about 50% of their beginner students within the first few months. And we found this happened because students didn't have engaging practice materials, and people who missed a few classes had no easy way to catch up. So they usually just end up dropping out, and the school loses money. But what if these students could chat with their school's Facebook page to practice what they learned, to learn new things, to prepare for exams, and all in a way that feels like a game? We're making this possible by providing language schools an easy way to connect a chatbot to their Facebook page that delivers fun lessons and exercises to create on our platform. The first bot we created using this platform won $20,000 from Facebook's Messenger Bot Challenge and grew to over 230,000 users who've had about 13 million interactions with the bot since we launched last December. This success led to our first couple of clients, like the Alliance Française in Addis Ababa and the Institut Français in Tokyo, Japan. But it's very easy to get started with one of these bots, as there's no need to install a new app or go through yet another sign-up process. You just find your school's page on Messenger, send the access code you received, pick a course, and immediately start working on reading, writing, and listening exercises that help improve your vocabulary and grammar. And the whole thing is gamified, which means you can earn points, badges, level up, and compete with others to get on the leaderboard. And a spaced repetition algorithm will ensure you remember what you learned. Speaking in a language you just learned can make anyone nervous, but Langbot doesn't judge. So you can chit-chat with the bot and role-play real-life scenarios for practice. As for the schools, on top of making it easy to create and manage these lessons, the tool also allows them to track everyone's progress, message students, or to train the bot to answer frequently asked questions coming to their Facebook page, saving their staff a lot of time. And we have a great business model that's win-win for everyone. Schools pay per student and package it into their tuition fee. We also increase the language school's reach by making it easy for anyone in the world to buy and access their courses and share the revenue with the school. The opportunity is huge. Our first partners alone, the Alliance Française and the Institut Français, represent over 900 schools, teaching over 500,000 students around the world. And assuming we can get into even half of these schools, charging just $1 per student per month, that's $3.5 million in annual recurring revenue. On top of that, we have the opportunity to work with other cultural institutions like the British Council who do English, or the Goethe Institute who do German, or other publishers looking to add a digital component to their offerings. This is our awesome team. I've personally spent over 4 years building software for clients around the world. And my co-founder, Remy, who handles content and partnerships, has extensive experience working with these language institutions. And to take full advantage of this huge opportunity, we're looking to raise our seed round of $250,000, which will mostly go into improving the product, acquiring more language schools, and supporting more messaging platforms like WeChat, Line, and others. Learning a new language creates a whole new world of opportunities for people. Help us make it easier for millions in Africa and around the world by supporting Langbot. Thank you.
For many generations in Africa, storytelling was used to teach children our history and to impart our most important values. And we all know that children love a good story. Thousands of children across East Africa today use and love Alimu's app because this startup is injecting new life into African storytelling. They do this by creating intriguing African storylines and weaving in them well-researched teaching techniques that have been shown to significantly improve the reading and writing skills of children. I believe that we should all pay close attention to Alimu, particularly here in South Africa, where the majority of children cannot read for meaning by the time they are in grade 4. Sam, CEO of Alimu, has some excellent ideas about how you can work with him to make sure that more children across Africa, and particularly in South Africa, have access to high-quality literacy content. Please help me welcome Sam to the stage.
Thank you. It's almost become a cliche to talk about a crisis with literacy in Africa. But for millions of parents, it's not a cliche, it's a reality. Where we're from in Kenya, 70% of children cannot read at the age of 10. And here in South Africa, it's even worse. 78%, nearly 4 out of 5 children cannot read for meaning at 10 years old. But what that means is there are millions of parents desperate for their kids to learn to read so that they can progress through school and become happy, healthy, productive members of society. Our solution for those parents is our reading app, Hadithi Hadithi. Hadithi Hadithi means story, story in Kiswahili, and it's what a Kenyan grandmother says to her children when she calls them around the fire to tell them a story. And that community-based approach is what we use to create stories in our reading app, Hadithi Hadithi. It's made up of hundreds of stories written by teachers, illustrated by artists, and voiced by actors and celebrities. Our stories aren't about apples and foxes and snow. They're about mangoes and markets and sunshine. But it's not just about stories, it's also about science. With each story, there are questions, spelling exercises, games and activities that make up the Reading to Learn pedagogy. And that pedagogy is shown to improve progress in reading and writing 4 times faster than traditional methods. I don't have time to talk about the many testimonies we have from parents and from teachers, but what I will say is that when we do demos, we get children coming to check out our app and staying reading with us for hours. So where are we now? We have 180 schools. We've got using our app in Uganda, in Kenya, and Somalia. We have 34,000 learners using it in 4 different languages, in English, Kiswahili, Lugbarati, and Somali. And this year, we generated $60,000 revenue. But our goal is to make mother tongue literacy apps in 10 languages across Africa in the next 2 years. And the reason for that is simple. Smartphone access in Africa is doubling every 2 years. And that means a growing market for us. In Kenya today, there are 3 million children aged between 6 and 8. Already 1.5 million of them, half of them, have access to an Android phone in their house. In South Africa, there's another 1.5 million. In Nigeria, there are 7 million children with access to an Android phone that could be using it to kickstart their education with our apps. And in the diaspora, there are also millions more families where children could be learning their mother tongue language, their own language, using our apps. So how can you work with Alimu? Well, we already work with school chains like Aga Khan Foundation to deliver our apps to schools in Kenya and Uganda. We work with NGOs like Norwegian Refugee Council to make the first literacy app in Somali that targets adults who missed out on school and is being used in Dadaab, the biggest refugee camp in the world in northern Kenya. But we need private partnerships to get to that expanding consumer market. So maybe you're a phone company, maybe you're a bank, and you want children signed up to savings accounts right at the start of school. Well, offer those parents a subscription to Hadithi and show them that you're as passionate about their education as they are. Right now, we're looking to raise $250,000, and what that will enable us to do is to launch a marketing campaign across Kenya and to build a business development team and a sales team to go out to schools, to talk to teachers groups, to talk to mothers groups, to talk to microfinance organizations, and develop sales channels all across the country. And here in South Africa, most importantly, we'll be able to launch reading apps for children who need it most in 2 South African languages, with South African stories, with images of South African faces and landscapes, read with South African voices. If that sounds like a story that you want to be part of, then get in touch.
The university protests that have rocked South Africa in the past years woke all of us up to the harsh reality faced by many students who are unable to access a quality education because they cannot afford the school fees. No one knows more about the dread of almost missing out on a quality education like Bola, CEO of ScholarX. ScholarX has already sourced financing for more than 600 students in Nigeria. What they're looking for tonight is partners and investors to help them scale this solution to many more children across Africa. Please help me welcome Bola to the stage.
Thank you very much. Like Doreen said, there are a lot of students protesting because they can't get access to school. And I didn't protest, but I was one of those students. When I was in university in the United States, because I migrated back, I got kicked out of school because my parents, and also I was not able to find source for my funds to pay for school. And eventually, I was bailed out because I applied for some scholarships and I was able to pay for tuition. And that's the main reason why we have the passion for starting ScholarX. So ScholarX is connecting high potential students in Nigeria, but soon the rest of Africa, to help them get access to funding for education anywhere in the world. And this aligns perfectly with our mission to put students on a better life path by getting them access to education. The problem we're solving is from two angles. One, for the students where their parents' household income is declining, and then tuition keeps rising. But also, we have people across the globe, the aspirants, particularly influential figures, companies, that are looking to help more students. But just because of mismanagement of funds that are supposed to use for scholarships are mismanaged, and then it's difficult for them to find organizations that are trusted and have a transparent platform. So it makes a lot of people uneasy or unmotivated to want to fund education. So the market we are targeting, we're looking at it from the student angle and also from the funders. For the students, 16 to 24 years old, there are about 2 million students that fits this category currently. But within the next 18 months, we are honing in on being able to target 100,000 high potential students who could possibly get a good education to become a productive member of society, but also can acquire some skills. And then we look at it, our funders, we're targeting particularly the aspirants. $22 billion gets sent back to Nigeria every year from the diaspora. And we have a guess that 10% of that could be towards funding charitable causes like education, healthcare. And we want to be a part of that. And we already are. Just talk a little bit about the kind of people on our platform, the people that use ScholarX. Abdul Salam could have been out of school, but he applied for a scholarship that we managed, we sourced and managed, and he got $1,000, which helped keep him in school for that semester. And now he has a brighter future and a better outlook. And then the story of Shay, a singer-songwriter in Nigeria, well known. She was actually, fun fact, she was actually being managed by Beyonce's father previously. She wanted to help students in Nigeria. But again, a lot of the problems that I mentioned was a little hesitant till she discovered ScholarX. Was able to fund over 10 students for the whole year. And she's very happy about the results and is willing to do more next year. Our business model, yes, I know a lot of people are thinking, do you make money from this? We're a social impact, social enterprise. And what we do is help people make impact. We make 10% from individual donations on the platform. And part of it of the legwork we have to do, especially with verification. And also organizations that are looking to create scholarships for us to manage end-to-end from the creation of the scholarship, announcement on our over 100,000 follower social media platform, all the way to grading the scholarships and announcing the winners, and even sometimes hosting them in our office to an event to inspire them. And then also we're working on it next year to launch loans for high potential students looking to acquire a skill, which will charge 5%. We've already made some revenue. For the last 12 months, we've made close to $20,000. And with a lot of support and more funding, we'll be able to grow our network. So far, like Doreen mentioned, we've helped 600 plus students get fully funded. $70,000 worth of tuition has been raised on our platform. We've managed over $100,000 worth of scholarships. We have 10 great partners, and we're looking to onboard more, particularly Techno Mobile, one of the largest phone distributors in Nigeria. We're currently working with them to help build some schools and fund students in Nigeria, and we just had to kick off yesterday. But also, we are very happy and excited about the potential partnership that we are working on with World Remit. World Remit is one of the top remittance company based in London. With you can send money to over 145 countries across the globe, and they have over 3 million users, particularly from the diaspora. And we're looking to integrate our platform with theirs. So at the point of checkout, when people are trying to make remittances, they can click on the button to help fund some students on ScholarX. And so we are very excited about that. We are looking for $300,000 in equity investment, 60,000 of which has already been committed to. We're looking to spend $120,000 on onboarding more funders, particularly 25,000 within the next 18 months. We're also looking to spend another 100 to improve the capability of our technology, particularly in the line of tracking students real time, so the donors, the funders can see that the students are progressing in school, and also to increase our capacity. We like South Africa, but our next focus is to launch in French-speaking West Africa, and then hopefully we can cover the rest of Africa as we move on. The team is comprised of myself and Maxwell. I met Maxwell through a good friend, and we shared the same problem of not being able to get scholarships and not being able to pay for school. And eventually we were bailed out by scholarships. And Dami is also on our team, and together we have over 25 years worth of professional corporate business and technology experience. And we truly believe we are the team to help block this access to education gap, breach this access to education gap in Africa. So if this interests you, if you want to help solve this problem and help us grow exponentially, I'll be over there at the end of the event. Please come talk to me. Thank you very much.
Every startup needs a good soundtrack. Now, if I had to choose the perfect song for the next startup, it would be Fire by Davido, the popular Nigerian singer. I genuinely believe that BlueBukh is on fire, and you're all about to find out why. Please welcome Favorite, CEO of BlueBukh.
Thanks, Doreen, for that hot introduction. At the start of every year, schools in Nigeria make bonfires. You might be wondering why. It's 2018, and yet over 90% of the schools in Africa are still run on paper. It costs them time, money, and effort. In most schools, results are written out in hand, stacks of attendance sheets fill up shelves in classrooms, fees are collected in hundreds of tiny bits of paper, and administrators spend days performing the most basic administrative tasks. It is also very expensive to store paper records. And so at the start of every year, schools have to burn their old records to make room for new ones. Our solution to this problem is BlueBukh. BlueBukh is a school management system designed for African schools. It's mobile friendly, easy to use, flexible, secure, and affordable, costing less than one third of competition. The potential market for this product is huge. In Nigeria, our home, there are over 70,000 private K-12 schools. In Ghana, there's 10,000. In Uganda, there's 13,000. And in Kenya, there are over 20,000 private K-12 schools, making over 100,000 private K-12 schools we could be helping with our product. We launched in Nigeria, and within a year, we were having schools signing up from Kenya, Uganda, and Ghana. So far, we have over 19,000 actively enrolled students on our platform. We've helped schools track over $3 million in fees. And every school that signed up with us has stayed back with us, and they're amazed at our product. So how do we make money from supporting these schools? Schools subscribe to the BlueBukh platform, and when we help them collect fees, we charge a 1% commission. We also make additional revenue from SMS alerts to parents about stuff like student attendance and falling grades. And when we also help students register for external examinations. Our team has experience in software development, design, and selling to schools. So to take advantage of our huge target market and grow BlueBukh footprint, we are looking to raise $200,000 to be invested mainly in marketing and sales, with a tiny bit going towards building partnership for our fee payment infrastructure. This will help us get to over 900 paying schools by the end of 2019 and $1.7 million in recurrent revenue. So If you are really passionate about putting out bonfires, come and speak to us after the pitch. Thank you.
Okay, it's now time for our first Q&A session, and may I invite the startups that have pitched to the stage. You may notice a new face on the stage. That is Remy, co-founder of Langbot. Okay, so let's get right into those burning questions, but first, some ground rules. When you are ready to ask a question, please put your hand up, and a microphone will be brought to you. The first thing you should do is introduce yourself, so your name and your company, and then ask a question in under 30 seconds to a specific startup. I will repeat the question for the benefit of everyone else, and then the question will be answered. Now, as much as the Injini team loves answering questions, we will not be doing that in these Q&A sessions. However, do catch us at the end of the event during the drinks for a one-on-one chat. Okay, so the startups look ready, and let's take the first question.
Hi guys. In the panel session and in Jamie's introduction, we talked a lot about advice and how important that is for emerging companies, startup companies, as they evolve down the development path. Where do you get your advice from? Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? And what advice is missing at the moment from your businesses that you need help with?
Okay, so Chris's question is about the advice that the startups have found useful and the advice that they haven't found particularly useful. Is there a specific company you'd like to answer that? BlueBukh.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful question. I think the advice that we found the most useful, I cannot say up here because it's very key to the success of our business. Found useful. There has not been any that we've not found. Like we've gotten a few advice that didn't work out well, particularly with how we reach out to schools, but it still helped us learn and help us figure out what was working particularly well for us. So thank you.
Cool. Questions? Yes.
My name is Prudence, and I come from an engineering company in Montague Gardens. We do electrical engineering. So my question is actually linked to Ebola. We got this YDP program where you get a student straight from school and you're training them like how to do engineering process in a well-technology space. So if you specialize in an environment where you are able to find funds for the students to go to school and to further their education, what is the next step after that? After their graduation, what do you do?
Thank you. So the question is directed to Bola, and it's about the support that they provide the students after they've received the financing and have graduated.
Hello. Thank you for that question. So we recognize that as well. So the whole idea, if you look at education, schooling, learning outcomes, skills acquisition, when students get out of school, it's either they get a good job, that's the goal, or become entrepreneurs. So one of the things that we've started doing now is have learning partners, and one is called University in Nigeria, who will not only train students in different ways to code, but also will place them on jobs they'll be able to do. And this is some of the things that we're trying to do, is not just to have the students get a good education, but also what happens after that. And the way we feel we can do that is with learning partners, also placement partners who will help them find positions. We can also, even some of our funders on our platform also have offered to become mentors, and sometimes they even end up having some of the scholarship winners as interns in their company.
Thank you, Bola.
Good evening. My name is Tatiana. I come from the company Uchiru, which is the biggest e-learning platform in Russia. And my question is, as we mentioned previously during the panel, the biggest problem now for like edtech startups is we've got a lot of solutions in the market, but there is like a big discrepancies between actually the solution and reaching the customers. We don't have, like, there is a lot of, we see need in providing the solution, but for some reason, we can't reach our customers. So my question is, how do you solve this problem of reaching the customers who is in need?
Tatiana, is there a specific startup you'd like to answer that question?
I think it's majorly for like everyone, like Langbot, Alimu, BlueBukh. How do you reach your customers?
Alimu, would you like to take this question?
Yes, no problem. I think, yeah, of course you're right. But that's changing so rapidly. That's what we forget. So one of the points I was trying to make earlier, right now in Africa, smartphone usage is doubling every 2 years. So that means that there are twice as many children every 2 years that have access to not just Facebook, not just WhatsApp, not just Candy Crush, but educational apps as well. And also, of course, the government environment is changing dramatically. So in South Africa and in Kenya, we see huge initiatives rolling out tablets to school. And I think that's starting to happen in Zimbabwe as well.
Yes, Marion.
Hi, I'm Marion. I'm from Pearson, about to go independent as a consultant. This is a question for Alimu as well. I've interested, obviously you're tackling a really big challenge across the continent. And I think focusing on parents and reading at home is also one of the research shows that that's one of the ways that a reading culture can develop and improve literacy. But there's often a gap where parents, maybe their aspirations don't translate into the actual physical act of encouraging their children to read on a daily basis, even with the help of a product like yours. So I was wondering what kind of customer user research you've done, what evidence you've been able to gather so far that makes you feel very strongly that once you get this product in the hands of parents, they're actually going to use it and their children are going to learn.
Thank you, Marion. So the question is to Alimu and about how they ensure that parents will genuinely get involved in using the literacy app with their children.
So the whole question about the reading culture in Africa has become this kind of like this big thing that everyone's like, oh, that's why there's low literacy. There's no reading culture. The reason there's no reading culture is because there are no books written that are relatable and easy to understand and in people's own languages. If we can transform that, then I think we can make that a lot more easier. We can do lots of kind of nudge things like use notifications and try and use peer-to-peer kind of networks to encourage reading as well. But I think the most important thing is just access to really good content written in your own language.
Thank you, Sam.
Hi, my name is Miguel from Injini. My question is for Langbot. How does your product differ from existing competitors such as Duolingo?
Langbot gets this a lot. I will not repeat that. Go for it.
Thank you, Miguel. We didn't expect that from you. First of all, we are very different than Duolingo. Duolingo is a content provider, and we are a content creation platform, which means that we provide a tool that allows anybody to create very contextualized and personified language teaching. Let's say if you are a school in Korea and you want to teach Korean to young teenagers, our tool will allow you to do that. Duolingo won't. Not only that, but we're also not an app. We are providing this quality content that the schools create on messaging apps where users are already there by billions.
Thank you, Remy. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle from Citi. Another question for Langbot. You had a great intro to your presentation where you got us all to put up our hands. I was there. You got us all to put down our hands. I put down my hand. And then you talked about the 50% drop-off rate in beginners learning languages. How has your application, not an app, but how has your product improved that drop-off rate? With 230,000 users, I'm assuming you've got some data on that.
So Michelle's question is about how Langbot is solving for the high drop-off rates when people initially start to learn a language.
Okay, so the 230,000 users that we were talking about are users using Langbot directly from Facebook Messenger. When we talk about the dropout rate, we're talking about our users that use Langbot from their language schools following the content created by their language schools. So the dropout rate is the problem we are after and is the key indicator that we're measuring with our 2 pilots in Tokyo and in Addis Ababa to make sure that users in these language schools that use Langbot and those who don't, it has a significant impact on this indicator.
Thank you, Remy. We will take the 2 final questions.
Hi, my name is Kuda. I'm from a startup called Wider. We're in direct worker reporting for improving working conditions in the supply chain. But yeah, my question is, I guess to anyone, but maybe BlueBukh. You know, you're dealing with a lot of data and data that pertains to young children. And, you know, there's a lot of things to do with data protection, like the GDPR in the UK. I know Africa hasn't really started kind of getting on the ball, but I know that laws specifically, you know, with data pertaining to young kids, you know, it's very sensitive. So what are you doing to ensure that data protection? And yeah, this can be answered by anyone, but specifically BlueBukh to start with.
Thank you. So the question is directed at BlueBukh around how they will ensure that the data they collect, especially from young users, is not abused.
Yeah. First of all, our servers are provided by AWS, which provides industry-leading security. So we are covered on that end. On the issue of protecting children's data, we do not actually handle. We don't speak because in like most developed countries, you have to get parent permission to handle children's data, children's below 13 years, their data. But we don't actually need to worry about that because we are not directly handling the children's data. The school do so. So that the school already has parental permission to store those children's data. So it doesn't. We don't have to deal with those regulations.
Thank you, Favorite. Unless there's any more questions, we will now close this first Q&A session. Thank you to the startups that have pitched, and I would now, I'd now like to invite my colleague, Ruth Hattersley, Head of Operations at InGenie, to guide you through the second phase of the pitches.
Thanks, Doreen. Now, as the InGenie team, we have the pleasure of being able to visit some of our startups in their home markets. And I did that a few months ago in Zimbabwe. I was genuinely taken aback by the response I saw one of our startups was getting there. Not only were students and teachers incredibly excited to be using their digital learning product, but unheard of in most markets, government ministers were queuing up to give their support and help them get into schools. Please welcome Adi, CEO of Learning Factory.
Across Africa, millions of students don't have access to qualified teachers and textbooks. In Zimbabwe, 67% of the 1.2 million students in secondary school don't have access to qualified teachers, and up to 50 students have to share a single textbook. As a result, 95% of students in rural areas fail their examinations in their first sitting. At Learning Factory, we've got a solution. We create curriculum-based multimedia educational content in collaboration with experienced, qualified, practicing teachers, and this content is approved by the Ministry of Education for use in schools. This content gives students a visual appreciation of the application of what they're learning. We make this content available as courses online at study.co.zw, as well as offline using StudyBox units. A StudyBox is a low-cost server which operates off the grid and offline, making content available to students in rural areas and other communities which don't have mains electricity or access to the internet. We provide training to teachers so that they can use this content effectively in their classrooms, which means that those unqualified teachers now have a resource to back them up. We generate revenue by selling StudyBox units to schools, and schools pay a subscription so that their teachers and students can access the content on these units. To date, we've been able to get the support of the Ministry of Education. They've given us authority to conduct user testing and teacher training in 17 schools across Zimbabwe. In addition, they have authorized us to use 4 of our courses in schools across Zimbabwe. In December, we begin teacher training, and that's going to open up one of our main revenue streams. By the end of 2019, we expect to have sold StudyBox units to 50 schools across Zimbabwe and have 5,000 users on our online learning platform, accessing a total of 28 courses. We expect to grow this number to 400 schools and 25,000 students using our online platform, accessing 64 courses in 2022. In order to develop these courses, we have a competent team which boasts of over 60 years of experience in business management and over 40 years of experience in teaching delivery and education administration. We also work with a network of partners. We require partners, and we are looking for organizations in the private and public sector which will open up their facilities to us to create high-quality video and multimedia content which will go into the courses that we're creating. As a partner, you get access to thousands of classrooms across Zimbabwe. Now, if you represent a public or private organization or NGO, and you're looking at making a difference to students across Zimbabwe and accessing classrooms across Zimbabwe, come and talk to me, and let's talk about how you can make a difference to rural students in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much.
Now, Jamie mentioned earlier that we received a lot of applications for our 2 cohorts. For cohort 2, we received over 800. But there was one in particular I really kept hearing about. When the team came back from Nigeria, there was so much excitement about a startup using online learning to upskill graduates and students in the skills that corporates need the most, then matching them intelligently to jobs. I'm glad to say they haven't disappointed. Not only have this startup taken our program very seriously, but they've taken their expansion to South Africa very seriously too. Please welcome Chris, CEO of Slatecube.
Africa has a recruitment paradox. On the one hand, we are churning out millions of graduates from our university, but on the other hand, we have businesses struggling to find entry-level talents to fill job positions in their organization. As a matter of fact, there are 15 million graduates every year from tertiary institutions across the continent, and over 11 million of them struggle to get employed even after 6 months of graduating. But then what is even more surprising is that there's over 16.2 million entry-level positions targeting these same graduates. And in Nigeria and South Africa, there's over 2 million of these jobs that are not filled even after 12 months. Now, what it means is that there's a huge disparity between what we learn in school and what employers really want. And we've built a solution to solve this problem. Slatecube is a digital platform that upskills students and intelligently connects them to entry-level positions in organizations. We offer 2 services to do this, and this is how it works. The Slatecube Accelerate platform offers project-based online courses built in partnership with businesses to teach the skills that they require from entry-level talents. And Slatecube Workforce is our machine learning-based AI system that intelligently matches talents to entry-level positions in organizations. Our revenue model is very, very simple. We charge companies a recruitment fee that is approximately $50 per month over a 6-month period for every talent they hire on our platform. We offer the role mapping service, which intelligently understands the skill sets of every employee in your organization and intelligently connects them to job roles that require those skill sets. And then we charge $5 per user per month. A typical example of a company using this service is Weber Wenzel. Our corporate upskilling fee is what we charge to government agencies that use our platform to train unemployed youth and get them integrated into the workforce across Nigeria and South Africa. We charge $70 per user per course in this model. Now, since launching commercially in March of this year, we have over 9,000 users signed up on our platform, taking courses and getting upskilled. We have 33 businesses we currently work with, and we have generated over $30,000 in revenue. Now, what is even more exciting for us is that we have an 80% job placement rate for every user who comes on our platform. What that means is for every user who goes through our user journey, they get placed into a job 80% of the time. Now, for companies looking to hire talent on our platform, 100% of the time, they have found the right talent to fill up job positions that they're looking for. Currently, businesses can use our platform to hire entry-level talents for junior positions. They can hire interns. Government agencies and NPOs like Africa Tecon use our platform to upskill youth and get them integrated into active job positions. And then, of course, large corporates and even small startups use our platform to match their employees to job roles that reflect their skill sets. We're currently looking to raise $350,000. This is going to be channeled into developing more courses across different industries beyond technology, which is what we currently offer on our platform. We're also looking to expand into new markets and revamp our sales and marketing activities with $250,000. Our team is made up of individuals with experience in software engineering, business development, international development, and we also have the opportunity to have gone to some of the best schools like MIT and UC Berkeley. Now, having attained an 80% job placement rate and having had 100% of our companies find and hire talents from our platform, we're looking to revamp our partnerships and scale into 4 countries in partnership with organizations like the MasterCard Foundation, and generated a revenue of over $3 million, recurrent over every single year. And by 2030, Africa is going to have the largest workforce with over 1.1 billion people playing in that space, majority of them being entry-level talents. 2 years before this date, we're looking to have placed over 1 million people into jobs and have facilitated a revenue of more than $300 million. If this is something that is interesting to you, I'll be more than happy to speak to you at our store over there. Thank you.
And now for our final pitch of the evening, a company who is solving real problems here in South Africa. There are many students who would love a personal tutor, but they can't get to them or they can't afford them. There are many corporate managers who would love to get their team some expert training, but again, they don't know where to find them or they can't afford them. That's where Lightbulb comes in. Please welcome Victor, CTO of Lightbulb Education.
We all know that South Africa is battling an education crisis. There are millions of people in schools and in the workplace that all want to learn. And there are thousands of organizations and individuals that want to teach and share knowledge. But for whatever reason, be it cost, inaccessibility, or just poor engagement, the people who want to learn are finding it difficult to connect with the people who want to teach them. That is, until we built Lightbulb. Lightbulb Education is a platform that connects the people who want to learn with the people who want to teach them. A learning management system available on any digital device with internet access. Users will be able to interact with each other and experts, as well view as content generated by such experts, open source, and licensed content providers. So how does this benefit you? Well, if you're someone who wants to teach, it means low administration. For both those who want to teach and learn, it saves time, it's cheaper, and more cost-effective. You are learning or teaching from the comfort of your home or workplace. And due to our interactive features and mobile services, it means it's more engaging. And for those organizations and individuals that are looking to scale, with Lightbulb, you could do so exponentially. This is a short demo of what our web app looks like. Some of the features include a digital content library, progress tracking for students, a lesson creation plan, a Q&A forum that promotes student-to-student engagements as well as student-to-educator engagements, a live chat with a built-in whiteboard, and audio and video call. So how do we make money and keep this running? Well, we have two main sources of revenue. Currently, we white label to businesses or organizations that want to use our platform for their training or tutoring programs. We also attract individual users that come to us seeking quality and quantity in our content and experts. We also make money from advertising, sponsorship, and branding. We estimate there's about 10 million students at the national level in South Africa. And in secondary and tertiary level, there's about 560,000 of them with internet access. When we're looking at the business side, we're targeting corporate trainers, health and safety, as well as the agriculture sector, among others. Our team is built on engineers. There's a founder and CEO, my brother Alan, who after working at Telkom and Dimension Data, went on to found Langbot and has been leading us ever since. There's myself, the CTO, who basically keeps the engine running. Ruhi and Nikailan run our marketing team and help get us those users. During our year of operation, we made nearly R500,000 in revenue and landed 6 B2B clients. And since joining the Injini cohort, we made 2 key partnerships, namely Snaplify and Sound Future Initiatives, which we hope to expand further and grow Lightbulb. We're looking to raise about 2.5 million Rand to help improve our product, get our increased marketing and sales, and make strategic partnerships. I mentioned earlier that we are battling an education crisis. Well, knowledge is a weapon. Lightbulb just happens to be one of the best armories. So come speak to us afterwards, so we can tell you how we're going to connect the brilliant minds of the future with the brilliant minds of today. Thank you.
And now for our final round of questions, if you guys want to come up. So the new face on the stage is Alan, who you'll have seen on the slides just there. So we'll have the same rules as before. Please introduce yourself, give your question, and I'll repeat before the startups give an answer. Great. So question from Roger. How do you plan to go from 30,000 up to the figures you projected?
Thank you very much for that question. We're currently expanding into 4 new countries with the MasterCard Foundation. And then we're looking to work with our current records, which shows an 80% placement for every user on our platform. Between now and the end of the next 12 months, we should have onboarded about 120,000 users on our platform with this partnership. And if we're working with the same numbers we've gotten from this year, we should be doing 80% of all these numbers, placing them into jobs. That would mean 100,000 of these guys being placed into jobs. Now, over a 6-month period, we collect $50, approximately $50 from each company that hires from our platform. That means $300 per user. So if you multiply this by 100,000 users that we will have upskilled and ready to be placed into jobs, that brings it to $3 million in revenue. So that's how we are doing it.
Yeah, question from Marion.
This is a question for Learning Factory. You've got some big numbers for teacher training, and I was just wondering, I'm interested to hear more about your teacher training. Is that also digital? Because quality teacher training at scale is one of the really difficult things to achieve.
Thanks, Marion. So the question for Learning Factory was on teacher training and what you'll be doing to ensure good quality and scale.
Teacher training is in-person training, and we've got a blended model where we provide in-person training at the onset and online support, right? We are working with the Ministry of Education, which previously did teacher training, but has since stopped doing that. So our access into schools is through Ministry of Education. One of our competitors used to do teacher training, but has since stopped. And that's the reason why there is such a demand for it. And our primary methodology is in-person training. But I'll talk to you more about how we actually do that.
Hi, I'm Leanne from the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. I have a question for Lightbulb as the only South African organization. I'd just like you to reflect on your experiences of going through this process and how it has helped you to develop partnerships and clarify your business model through the incubation process.
Okay. So Lightbulb, the question is how InGenie has helped you develop partnerships in particular.
Thank you, Leanne. So the main thing that we actually learned is how to sort of pivot the business. We started off focusing quite heavily on a business-to-consumer market, which was heavily administratively intense. And we realized that, you know what, we can't do both, build technology and provide the educational facilitation for the students. So then what we decided is just to partner with guys who actually are good at educating and saying to them, look, let's just focus on the technology. You guys you guys create the content and actually deliver the service. And then we'll just make sure that we support the technology at the back end. And that's been one of the key components that we've learned from the entire process as a pivoting.
If I will jump in with one if people need a little more time to think. Okay, this one is for Slatecube. Having started in Nigeria and come to South Africa, what have you found have been the main differences in the markets, and what are the main challenges of trying to upskill and place people in South Africa?
Am I going to wait for you to repeat the question? The interesting thing is it's actually been pretty similar. There haven't really been so much difference in the requirement. What I was expecting to see was that the requirement for previous degree would be a little bit more lax, because in Nigeria, everybody wants you to have a degree. And it's pretty much the same thing here. Our goal when we started was to upskill African youth and get them integrated into the workforce, irrespective of their previous educational background. But now we are finding more and more increasingly the fact that businesses want you to have a degree before they can give you, they can even look at your skill sets and all of those things. So that has been particularly, something that we thought was going to be different, but then again, it's pretty much the same struggle back home as it is here in South Africa. So that's pretty much it. I don't think there's been any real difficulty. And then again, well, companies try to stick to the BEE procedure, and working with a company that isn't South African can be tricky sometimes. So yeah, but aside from that, everything else has been pretty much the same.
Thank you. Anyone else jump? Yeah, one in the front. Can we get the mic?
Miguel again. This one's for Lightbulb. What makes you different from companies such as Moodle, which already have learning management softwares?
So,
thanks. So what makes Lightbulb different from Moodle?
okay. Thanks, Miguel. So the main concept that we try to focus on with regards to like the development of our own LMS was to focus extensively on interactivity and communication, whereas a lot of like the standard learning management systems focus on just content management. We tried to put more engagement because we saw that a lot of our students were spending more time actually like engaging with experts and educators as opposed to just dealing with just the content consumption component. So that's where we try to focus a lot of our energy, and then additionally add on the content management components as well.
Yeah, Michelle in the back. Yeah.
Also for Lightbulb, you started to intimate towards the end of that presentation that you were focusing on particular content streams, and I was interested in exploring that more. You mentioned health and safety, agriculture, because, yeah, again, to follow on from Miguel's question around the competitive landscape for this, is that something you see as a differentiator, specializing in particular sectors of content?
Yeah, so Lightbulb, how do those particular sectors fit into your plans, and would they differentiate? Are you seeking to go there because of differentiation?
Yes, we are, primarily because we don't believe that many companies actually focusing in these sectors. We have a lot of industries whereby there's lack of access to quality educators. If you just take the health industry, things such as like nursing, there's spread across the whole country in different clinics, but then you have experts who actually do this, the teaching components based in like your sort of major cities. So in order for them to actually engage, we think that using like the LMS system will be able to actually like provide them content whereby they can learn about things such as like patient care. You know, you can just basically log onto the platform, watch a few videos about how to do it, ask questions and get feedback from an expert about what's the best way to do this. Same thing with agriculture. A lot of people across the country are all trying to now learn how do we get into the agricultural space. We have a lot of experts in agricultural fields who sit in, you know, primarily like the bigger cities, so to speak, like so like Stellenbosch and Free State and so on. Big commercial farmers who can basically provide skills to subsistence farmers about like what type of things to use, what type of pesticides to use. Like they can provide all these educational materials and content, but also allow them to have feedback and engage with these people in order to actually see like, hey, we're struggling with the drought over here. What do we need to do? How can we like actually like learn from you without having to physically travel? Back.
Hi, this one's for Slatecube. Chris, you have a couple of different products or value adds for corporates. I was wondering which of those has got the best traction so far, Nigeria and South Africa, and what your ideal client looks like for that product.
So
Right.
that was Ant Sally from Alan Gray Orbis. So yeah, what of your products, which has got the most traction, and how's that in Nigeria versus here?
Right, thank you very much for that question. So based on my presentation, you'd see that we've made most of our revenue from candidate placement, recruitment charges for businesses. However, in the last 3 months, we started working with the likes of Weber Wenzel, and there's prospect to generate about 3 million rand in revenue from just one client for the role mapping service. And then they're also helping with facilitating introductions into other kinds of firms that do the role mapping functionality. So there is going to be a case for us to push more for businesses looking to do role mapping than recruiting going forward. However, both of them kind of work hand in hand because some companies aren't really looking to hire, but they want to make sure that they understand where their employees stand in terms of the skill sets that they have, and then match them to client projects that really need those skill sets. So that's something that we'll be doing a lot of going forward.
Thank you. So I think we'll have time for one more question, if anyone wants to take the last one.
Hi, hello. My name is Sobani from Apparent Dev. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the startups today. Good job to everybody. And then this goes to all three. I'm just a bit curious as to all of you guys have subscription models and how you generate income and stuff. Would you touch a little bit on what motivated or what influenced your pricing in any, especially you in Nigeria and South Africa, you know?
Okay, so the question from Sabani was on pricing and modeling and how you've made those decisions. We have a one question per startup rule, so I'm gonna direct that to Slatecube.
Okay. Thank you. So for our recruitment charge, it's pretty normal that we charge people who have the money to pay for our service, and that's the basis for our revenue model. So we charge companies that are looking to hire talent because the demand to hire talent rests on them. Students who are looking to get upskilled and placed into jobs don't really have the money, right? And then it makes a lot more sense for us to charge companies for that. Now, we looked at other subscription models that exist across sub-Saharan Africa to decide what our pricing would look like for the role mapping service. Many of these firms use platforms like Slack, which pretty much runs the same subscription model where you pay per user, and the more user you have on your platform, the more you get to pay. So it didn't make any sense for us to have a flat subscription fee irrespective of company size, and that's why we went that route.
Okay, so thank you to our second round of startups. If you want to take your seats again. Okay. So this brings the formal goings on of the evening to an end, but by no means the whole event. The startups are going to be available to chat to you about their products, to answer any further questions, or to explore how you might work with them in the future. Before I let you go and grab a drink and get on with that, I have 3 big thank yous. Now, the first one is to the startups themselves. Now, when we trawled through all those 800 applications, I had no idea we would end up with a bunch who've been so committed and such a pleasure to work with. If you could have seen, well, I expect many will have seen the first pitches that they did back in July, and there's progress both in those pitches, but of course far beyond that in their businesses that we've seen through that period. So first of all, a huge thank you to Injini Cohort 2 startups. Now, the second thank you goes to AWS, who have so kindly hosted us here this evening. I can't compare any other host in terms of the smoothness of tech and the ease of turning up and being able to plug in and present. We really appreciate being part of your EdTech offering, and we are very glad to be your partners. Thank you very much. And then finally, this has been said once before this evening, but we have to end with a big thank you to our funders, of which we wouldn't be here or either here or in the broader sense of running this program at all. Thank you very much to the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, the UBS Optimus Fund, and the Western Cape government. So please grab a drink, grab some food, chat to our startups, and chat to each other. Thank you very much for coming.
Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. What is love? Baby, don't